after the failure of a conversion therapy ban and after the failure of a Safe to Be Me conference and its inevitable scrapping, it was quite clear that the government were crap.
Although, it doesn't take that much to show you how shit they are.
So, at 10 o'clock at Parliament Square, I decided to get there early. And right away, I saw a massive congregation of police. The day prior, the policing bill was put into effect. This is a policing bill that meant that any amplification devices in Parliament Square was blocked, including fire alarms. And in that way, I managed to do some sightseeing and checked out Steve Bray's protest. It seems some news about him blew up on the Twitter the day prior, and with that, I might as well see what the fuss was about, and my goodness, it was as bad as it looked. Though, Steve Bray excursion aside, I went to Parliament Square, and I met up with some of the folks at Trans Activism UK to chat and wait and get prepared for the protest ahead. So, minor weightlifting of speakers aside, and much eyeing from the police because I was carrying a big massive fuck off speaker, around 11 o'clock we were getting the staging ready when the Rosas came and told us no. So, as you can see in this clip, I managed to get a camera in the middle of this conversation, and I was looking smug as the police legally couldn't do anything to stop me. But unfortunately, the takeaway of that one is that we had to go to Downing Street because Priti Patel is a snowflake.
Circumstances have changed a little, so we want to make sure that this continues to be safe and that you are able to speak freely. We are going to move the location. We have insisted on the cooperation of the city to help us with this transition as we move on to Downing Street. So you will still have the speeches. You will still have the opportunity to speak and be heard by the people who need to hear you. We'll make sure of it.
What do we want? Trans rights! When do we want them? Now! What do we want? Trans rights! When do we want them? Now!
And we had arrived at Downing Street. The organisers set up their speakers, tested them, and the speeches began. But we decided to split off to the side of the protest to speak to some people and do some interviews. So, the first person we met was Stephanie Stirling, or as Michelle named this clip, Stephanie fucking Stirling.
Hey Stephanie, how's it going?
Not bad, not bad. It's I've more or less just got here, got lost. I've not been back in London in 20 years, so not a lot's changed.
What's different?
What's different? What is different? Jelly tots. They've changed jelly tots. They used to be harder, chewier, they're softer, more malleable, better. Actually better.
You sure that's not just like, you know, the memory coming in, the going past us a very much a simpler time or something?
You see, I would have thought the same, but I never forget around trees.
Fair enough. So what brings you to the protest today?
What brings me to the protest today is the necessity of it, really, the sheer necessity of it. Obviously, we all know that trans rights are under attack across the entire world. I spent almost 15 years in the United States. In this year alone, after moving back, which I feel terribly guilty about it, but I feel like I've dodged a hell of a bullet because over 100 anti-trans bills have been introduced in the United States in just the first few months of this year alone in 2022. This includes such horrific bills as one in, I believe, Missouri that wants to raise the age of any form of medical care for trans people to the age of 25 because their brains aren't developed yet, which is not a requirement to join, say, the military or any other life-saving, life-changing activity or goal. That's perfectly fine. Obviously, it includes genital inspections for children. This is something that a number of Republican lawmakers have been incredibly interested in.
I wonder why.
Yeah, nominally to keep assigned male at birth trans women out of sports. But there's a far deeper and darker, not just what's on the surface that's deep and dark about the desire to inspect the genitals of children, but also to police where we can and can't go. This is a huge part of it. It started with bathrooms years and years and years ago, and moved on to keeping trans women out of sports, with an intense focus on trans women, thereby erasing trans men, gender non-conforming people, non-binary people such as myself. This intense focus on trans women, keeping them out of sports. Then that moved on to Save the Children rhetoric, telling lies about children, talking about how they have gender reassignment surgery at a preteen age, things that are just blatantly not true. Then that moved on to things like puberty blockers, which are obviously very reversible. They are not this life-altering death sentence.
Your skin doesn't just start melting off.
No, absolutely not. In fact, I can confirm that HRT makes your skin wonderful. Absolutely fabulous, darling.
Yeah. I love that skin. I love that skin.
Yeah, my husband's jealous. So yeah, and it moved on to things like we've seen in, I believe it's Florida, where they want to ban even social transition now. It's gone beyond the excuse that they're just trying to stop medical care for children. They now want social transition gone. And then we have very prominent members of the TERF, gender critical ideology, now openly talking about reducing our numbers like they're running pest control on us. This is fascism.
Yeah.
This is genocidal rhetoric, and the end goal is to police us out of existence. It started with bathrooms because it sets the precedent that we have spaces where we are not allowed. Where
our presence is a problem.
Yes, where femme-presenting people, where trans women, where femme non-binary people, where gender-fluid people aren't welcome. And the moment you establish that acceptability, you begin the domino chain of consequences. And, I believe wholeheartedly that this has led not just to oppression of trans people, but to oppression of the wider LGBTQ plus community, of cis women as well. Obviously, we've had in America the overturn of Roe v. Wade, and the very people who were celebrating things like the denial, the revocation of medical care for trans people, 1 week later, after celebrating that, they registered their horror at talk of overturning Roe v. Wade, of revoking abortion rights. Now, you can't celebrate the removal of bodily autonomy and then express horror at the removal of bodily autonomy. It's the same thing. We're all in this together. You cannot pick and choose human rights. This is something I say all the time. You can't pick and choose human rights, because the moment you establish that it's acceptable to debate a human right, you've established the precedent that it's acceptable to talk about human rights in general. You put everything on the table. That's why in America, anti-abortion legislation has been introduced, why states had trigger laws ready to go to immediately ban it, why the Supreme Court is now talking gleefully about rolling back rights for gay marriage, because it's all acceptable, because at one point it was deemed acceptable, or at least forgettable, by the larger society that human rights were up to debate, that trans human rights were up for debate. And now that that's been accepted, now that our enemies, and they are enemies, the Tories, the gender criticals, the Republican Party in America declared open war on the LGBTQ plus community. And our enemies established that they could get away with a certain level of bigotry, and now they're pushing and pushing and pushing, because fascism doesn't have an end goal. Fascism only has enemies, and they're coming for us all.
Is that why you moved back to the UK, or is it one of the reasons?
It wasn't one of the driving reasons why I came back. I came back but to be with my husband primarily. But it was one of the reasons I was happy to be back.
Yeah.
So that I could put boots on the ground, so that I could represent in whatever way I can in both my careers, in my dual careers as a pro wrestler and a YouTuber, just to be that representation, because I believe that visibility is vital. Seeing yourself in wider culture helps you to accept yourself. This is something I wish I had growing up.
I'm with you there.
Yeah, I wish I'd seen more non-binary trans femmes, but I never did, because I grew up in the 80s. I grew up under Section 28.
So did I. The exact same thing. It's like the knowledge was kept from us, that would unlock our understanding, and that fucking sucks.
Yeah, this is why I didn't come out until I was 36. This is why I lost so much time.
Gotta say, you did it in style. I really liked what you did. Can I just ask to round things off? You mentioned that you've got a big audience. You are a representation of the community, even though you are fairly new to the community. So this might be me asking you for wisdom for when you don't have necessarily the experience yet. I don't know. Let's find out. But we have a lot of younger listeners. They will probably know who you are. And as you said, times are getting a bit fucked. Do you have any words for anyone who is around, late teens, early 20s?
What I would say is, your gender is your own, or your lack of gender is your own. If that's you, it's nobody else's. No matter how much they want to try and take that from you, don't let them take that joy. Because when I see trans people, I don't see the misery, the depression that popular culture wants to paint us all as saddled with. So much of the sorrow that I see is only because of what's been done to us, not because of who we are. Don't let them take that joy, because being trans is beautiful. It's saved my life. And if you're questioning yourself, experiment as safely as you can, even if it's privately. Just, if you're asking those questions, keep asking and keep exploring, however safely you can. And yeah, if you feel like it might help you be who you are, then please go for it, because I wish the multiple times in my life that I'd asked those questions, I wish that I'd listened to myself.
A few speeches later, and the protest was over. Now, this protest was originally about protesting a conference that had been going on around that time, but since it was scrapped, the meaning of this protest had changed significantly. It was now about the whole approach the government had taken towards LGBT people, and to sum it up, I will leave you with this speech that happened on the day.
This speech is a collection of parts written by different trans people who work at Spectra CIC, a charity focused on the sexual and mental health of LGBTQIA+ communities, with specific trans-led programs. As workers advocating for and providing frontline services to our own communities, we see the dire impact of a hostile government and a failing approach to healthcare that needs urgent and radical interventions. Many of these changes would benefit everyone in society. Eradication of gatekeeping and the movement to a comprehensive care approach that emphasizes person-centeredness and bodily autonomy. Effective and timely access to benefits and housing. Decentralization of care and equipping of primary care practitioners with resources and training to provide straightforward, life-saving services. We stand in solidarity with our trans comrades who organize necessary direct action to stimulate change to devastating, hostile systems of oppression. We benefit from a diversity of tactics, people arguing inside a room while others break down the door from outside. Healthcare systems have produced a legacy of intergenerational trauma for trans communities. Conceptualization of transness as a mental disorder still underpins the approach taken to assessment by many gender clinicians and the GPs who are ultimately responsible for the delivery of the vast majority of routine care. Huge numbers of cis people change gendered aspects of their body using medicine at some point in their lives, using hormone-based contraception, HRT for menopause, steroids or testosterone for fatigue or bodybuilding, and yet the specifically trans contexts of medical interventions are uniquely framed as risky, or under-evidenced because of how such provision challenges the idea of being cis as the default. Increasing funding or staffing for systems that gatekeep and privilege cis clinical understandings of transness, trans being, are not the path to trans liberation. Radical change is needed. We welcome the work of trans-led healthcare contexts such as Clinic Q and Clinic T, and the primary care pilots Indigo, CMAGIC, East of England Gender Service, and Trans Plus. But change is slow and has been needed for years. In our efforts to fight for better rights for trans and gender diverse people in the UK and elsewhere, we must not leave trans and gender diverse people of colour behind. We thrive better as a community when we are all included, and our collective rights and well-being will continue to be vulnerable to attack if sections of our community continue to face marginalisation and structural exclusion. For the fight for our rights to be inclusive, we must see the fight for racial equality to be as important as all the other things we fight for as a community, such as transphobia, income inequality, disability rights, and employment rights. There is strength in unity and numbers. Making our communities inclusive and receptive to all our diversity will make us stronger and more resilient to attacks by those who wish to harm us. Lastly, I have a poem from a member of the team called Vex. Our communities need to know that we are there for them now and in the future. Our communities deserve to have their needs met in the same manner as any other. Our communities want to feel that they are supported and nurtured. Our communities should be able to celebrate their diversity, beauty, and uniqueness just as. Our communities celebrate what brings us together. Our communities need support from our allies, from our friends, and from each other. Our communities deserve to know that they are not alone. Our communities want you to know that we are here, whether you see us or not. Our communities should be able to feel free to be me. Our communities commiserate what tears us apart. Our communities need financial help and support. Our communities need emotional help and support. Our communities need physical help and support. Our communities need to know where and how to get this support. Our communities need people who care. Our communities need one another. Our communities need strength in numbers. Our communities need ally voices. Our communities need care, and our communities need love. Thank you.